All right, so for this drawing of Sally, we are going to be doing it on toned paper. And before we get started, let's go over some of the supplies that you're going to need. You want to have your charcoal set. At the very minimum, you want to have a black charcoal pencil, a white charcoal pencil, a kneaded eraser, some blending stumps. You want to have toned paper. Now, toned paper comes in a lot of different colors and a lot of different textures. So you can choose whatever works for you. I'm going to be using this right here, but I often will use cutouts from my mat because the paper that's on the mat is archival, and so is this, meaning that they're going to last for many years to come. So avoid using construction paper, because even though you get nice texture and nice thickness, the paper itself is not archival, and over time it will fade away because of the acid that's in the paper. So anytime that we work with toned paper or charcoal, I like to think of the toned paper as one of the midtones, right? Because the paper is not white, we're going to be adding highlights, we're going to be adding shadows, and we're going to add some of our midtones, but we're also going to allow the paper to show some of our other midtones. Okay? So I created a little scale down here to show you some possibilities. Now, pure white has to be done by pressing firmly with the white pastel pencil or the white charcoal. Okay. Remember not to use colored pencils, because colored pencils are oil-based or wax-based and they won't give you the same effects. So you want to make sure that you're using the proper equipment. So that would be your bright highlight here. Your deepest, darkest shadow, of course, is going to be pure black. So I have a 4B. Oops. Stand by. All right, take two. So I have a 4B pencil, or you can use a 6B. And here, for your deepest, darkest shadows, you are going to be working with pure black. Now, the issue, it's not really an issue. You have to make decisions about what you want your midtones to look like. So for example, I can take white over here and lightly press, but allow a lot of the paper to show through. And that could give me a light value that's not a pure highlight. Okay, so that would be very light, but not white. Or you can do it by mixing. So for my midtone, this one here that's in the middle, I'm actually going to mix the white and the black together and blend them together if I want to. Or, like I said, I can allow, what you'll see in the drawing, I can allow some of the paper to show through and use that as one of my midtones. So I'm actually going to leave that one, even though it's a little bit lighter, I'm going to leave that one blank as a reminder that you can indeed use your paper as one of your midtones. And then this one, I'm not pressing as hard because I want some of that paper to show through. And I'm blending it. And then of course this one is pure black, so maximum pressure here, really filling in the pores. And you can have more. If you wanted to do some additional experimentation with these combinations, you could do that. Okay? But for now, we're gonna stick with this. So pure black, a dark grayish color, the tone of the paper itself, a lightish gray, a light color, and then pure white for my highlights. Okay? So I think this is going to be our palette today. All right, now that we got the paper that we want and we got the palette that we want, it's time to start working on the drawing. So what I did a drawing of Sally on white paper, and I have a video for that if you guys need help with that. And then I wanted to transfer it onto the tone paper. Now the tone paper is dark, so it's not see-through, so I couldn't use my light table. So I use carbon paper to transfer it, and then you can actually see a little bit of that here. And then I went over it with the white charcoal pencil so that it's easier for me to follow, but more importantly, it shows up better on camera. Okay. Now, the next thing that I need to do is that I need to establish where do I want my light source to be. Because remember, anytime that you're working with the pastels, really all you're doing is adding highlights, shadows, and midtones. And all of those are being caused by the light source. Started. Now, I'm trying to keep my videos a little bit shorter, so I'm going to be showing you how I do part of this, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. So I'm going to start with the eyes, and I'm just going to do one eye. If you can do one eye, you should be able to do the other one just fine. We're going to say that the light source from the reference photo that I'm looking at, the light source is coming from the top right. So this part of the eye is going to be really bright, and then there's going to be a very soft shadow here. And of course, the pupil is going to be black. So let's go ahead and start on that. So anytime that I work with pastels, I start to build up. I think of it more like a painting, right? And I want to build up my layers a little bit at a time. So I'm pressing kind of firm, but I'm not like covering the entire paper all at once. And then I like to keep one of the blending stumps for the white, so that I can try to keep it as bright as I possibly can without contaminating it. The other ones I can use for the gray or the blacks, but try to keep one that is dedicated just for the whites. Now, because the light source is here, we know that underneath the eyelid, there's going to be a shadow. So I'm just barely touching the paper with the 4B. And then I'm going to use one of these to kind of blend it, right? Because it's a shadow, not a line. So I want to make sure that I create a nice soft shadow right there. And you'll notice that I blow on this a lot. I don't want to like swipe at it because it will damage your work. If your shadow gets a little too big, take your kneaded eraser and take a little bit off. Now, on this side, there's going to be a softer shadow as the head goes, or the eye goes into the head. So I'm just going to take this without adding any more, and I'm just going to gently rub and blend. So no lines here. So that's the equivalent of probably this one right here. And then, of course, the pupil is going to be pure black. So I'm going to get in here and use one of these for black. And then I could refine it a little bit as I need to. Now let's work on the face a little bit. Again, because the light source is over here, this side, especially the forehead here, is going to be bright, and this side over here is going to be a little bit in shadow, okay? The top portion of the nose will be bright, the side of the nose will be in shadow. This front part of the nose, or the base of the nose, will also be in shadow, okay? So think of it as painting, and really think about where the light would hit and how it's going to affect that area. So I'm going to start with the nose, and I want to start kind of like putting in the highlight. I like to work with highlights first as much as possible so that I can try to keep them as clean as I possibly can. And then you can just build up your shadows a little bit at a time. So that's going to be the top of the nose. And then for the base of the nose here, very little. You can also use the vine charcoal to do some of this if you wanted to, if you have it in your set. The vine charcoal doesn't have any of the binder, and it blends really nice, really soft. Okay. But I'm going to try to do this one mostly with the pencils because, like I said, really all you need for this is black, white, some blending stumps, and some toned paper. All right, let's go ahead and figure out this part here. And I like to keep a scrap sheet of paper nearby so that I'm not messing up the areas that I've worked. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a bright highlight here. And when I put in this highlight, I'm following the curves of the forehead, right? That goes back to our lessons on cross contours, how they follow the form of the strokes follow the form of the object. Using the white one, blend it in nice. I'm going to start allowing more and more of the paper to show through because I think I want to use the paper for the color of her face. Even though her face is a bluish tint, I did not want to use the blue paper, so I like this better. Okay, now over here, there's going to be a little bit of a shadow here, a little bit of a highlight here. So using a little bit of the 4B, put in a few strokes, and then blend. Again, follow those curves. And then right there, we need some white. Okay. Now, because there's a little gray there, the white won't be as pure as it is up here. So I'm just going to put a little bit right here. Right, because I'm thinking that the lid, right, that lid right there is going to catch a little bit more of the light than this part of the lid. And I want to create a little bit more separation between the lid and the brow bone, the brow ridge. So I'm just going to make this a little bit darker. Create some nice contrast. If you remember that, that's one of our terms that we use anytime we're doing shading. We're creating contrast between the objects. Okay, now let's work on this one here. This part here, if you look on a person, is facing up, right? Which means that it's going to catch more light. So right here, right, this part right here, it's going to catch more light. So I'm pressing firmly. And I feel like I need to add just a little bit more shadow here so that I can create more contrast between this and the bottom portion of her eye. So just tap it a little bit with the pencil and pull it in there. So now there's a nice separation. Now as I start to come down, like her cheek would be here, so that's going to catch a little light. But then as it comes down, it starts to get darker as it goes underneath. So back to the white. Back to the black. And I'm mixing them to create one of my grays. On this edge here, follow the contours. And I'm using very, very little charcoal. Because all I'm doing is putting some tones in. It's not really line work at this point. It's all about values. Switch. Now, if I wanted to show a lot of texture, then I would make these really sharp and use them with more, do more line work, and that would help create the texture. I feel like here we need a little more to separate this from that. Not much though. There we go. And then down here, we start to get a little bit darker. So I'm gonna go just a little bit stronger. Not pressing hard. Don't get that confused. So when I say stronger, all I mean is that I'm adding more charcoal than I did up here. Then blend it. Her upper lip should be slightly darker than her lower lip. So I'm gonna get in here, right? I'm gonna start here. And I'm gonna put in just a little bit of charcoal. And then I'm gonna push it up. So this part here, where the two lips meet, will be darker. And again, I'm only doing half the face, so you guys could see the before and after. Then the lower lip, right where the two lips meet, that's going to create a deep shadow. And then it's going to come out just a little bit. And it is lighter than the top because it faces up, meaning that it's going to catch a little bit of highlight. And then because it sticks out, there's going to be a shadow underneath it. Right, a little cast shadow. So I'm putting a little bit of charcoal there and fade it away. Now, from time to time, you see how these things start to fall apart? Because they're hollow, if you remember. So from time to time, you may have to cut these tips off. And if it gets to the point where they're really bad, just switch and get a new one. They're very cheap, so I always have quite a number on hand. Or you can make your own, or you can use Q-tips. Now we have her stitching. So that will be relatively sharp. And then we have the stitch themselves. Now where the stitches go into her skin, it's going to have those little holes. So I'm just going to put a little bit of an indentation underneath them. And wherever the stitches are coming out, they're going to catch a little bit of a highlight. So I'm just going to throw a little bit, not much. And I'm not going to blend these. I want these to stay relatively sharp. Now you can take this to whatever degree of realism that you want. So that's what her face is going to start to look like. And remember, I am going to leave some of the natural color of the paper show through. For the hair, this part here is going to be really dark. But as it starts to come up, especially right here, it's going to get brighter because it's facing the light. So I'm just going to do a little bit. So because it is a puppet, these hairs are like, think of them as one big unit. Not like when you're drawing a realistic person where you have to do all of the individual, not the individual strands, but the strand grouping. So here, I'm following not delay, but the cross contours. So I'm following the direction that the hair is flowing. And I'm using the side of the lead. I'm not drawing like each individual hair strand. And it's going behind her shoulders. So I want to make sure that I stop it when I get here. If it was in front, then I would continue it down. But it's behind her shoulders, so we're going to keep that just like that. Now, here, right here, it's going to be really dark. Right. So I'm putting in another layer. I may go back and blend it. I don't know yet. For right now, I'm going to leave it like that. Now, for here, I have to be a little bit more, not cautious, but I do have to remember that it's going to be brighter. So I'm not going to be using nearly as much charcoal. And I'm going to throw in a little bit of whites. Now, I don't want to see this white outline of the face, so I need to make sure that I take that right up to it and replace the line with contrast instead. Where the hair dips down, right here, that's going to be kind of dark as well. So, and it's going to have a little bit of a curl. And I'm going to throw a little bit of white just to create a highlight. Still following the texture, or not the texture, the contours. Having issues talking today. So I want to create a highlight. I don't want to give her gray hair. So I'm just putting in white here, black here, and allowing some of that paper to show. So you can see how this is starting to come out. And then from here on out, you can start fine-tuning, making adjustments. If you decided you need to make something brighter, remember that to a degree, you could take your kneaded eraser and remove some of your charcoal. Okay, you'll never get it pure back to the color of the paper, but you can get it fairly close, especially with the white. The black's a little harder. So that's essentially it. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the back, the other side, and then we'll come back and decide whether or not we want to do something in the background. All right, so we're back, and this is what we got so far. So remember, to recap, the light source is coming from this side here. So everything that's facing the light source has to be brighter than the stuff that's going away. We are using this for our palette. So from pure white, pure black, and then various tones, allowing the paper to show through here and there. The last thing that I want to do is I want to put in her features, or not her features, but her scars, because that's kind of what it defines her. Now, I've sharpened the pencil, and if you've been working with this, you'll know that these pencils, they wear out very, very quickly. So you're going to have to sharpen them frequently. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up a little bit. And then start putting in the stitches. Make sure that you're make the stitches look like they're going over this area here. So avoid going like straight across. Okay? Give it a little bit of dimension. And then where the stitches go into, you know, her ragged skin, I guess you can call it, make sure that you put in a little shadow underneath it so it looks like there's a hole in the fabric. Or in her skin, if you want to call it that. I am going to use a little bit. I was debating this. I don't want to leave the background that same value. So I am going to use a little bit of vine charcoal and a rag. I'm using a chamois, but you can use paper towels or whatever you have handy. And I'm just going to break up some of this. I could keep going, but I'm actually going to stop right here. And then you could take this to whatever level of realism you want, or you can keep it more playful. The idea is to get used to working with the black and the white charcoal and the equipment on tone paper. And then you can use this on whatever subject matter you want to try. Okay. So I hope you give this a try. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks so much for watching.